Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Sports Lab podcast. Today is episode 11, I believe, for
I
our
think so,
podcast.
yeah.
So we have Alex here with me. Of course, I'm Thomas Bailey. We are ready to go. Another week of football has occurred, and we are ready for week 3. But before we get into week 3 football, we have to discuss this crazy week of football that we just witnessed. And we're going to start it off with the Bills and Dolphins a little bit here. Alex, the Buffalo Bills win it 31-10. What is your thought process about this game as Buffalo picks up its second straight win?
Yes, so we were able to talk a little bit about it on Friday, but as we both said, we wanted to watch the film over the weekend and on Tuesday. And I
Right.
watched up until Tua got injured. I just ran out of time and I didn't really care to watch the end of the game because it didn't mean too much without their starting quarterback and us winning by 21. So I basically watched the first 3 quarters of the game through all 22, and I was very impressed. There was a couple of things that I still had some issues with that we kind of had some problems with last week that I will touch on, but our secondary through 2 games has been the best secondary in the NFL this year. It is Christian Benford has solidified himself as a top 10 corner in this league. You can make an
Whoa.
argument top 8, top 5, but I think the way he played last year and the way he's playing so far this year, I would 100% put him in my top 10 cornerbacks. And then Rasul Douglas, obviously holding it down. He isn't getting the interception numbers like he did last year, but he's still doing a great job. Obviously, they've held Marv, Trey McBride, Tyreek Hill, and Jalen Waddle to under a combined 100 yards between the 4 of them. And then you saw McBride and Marv this week against the Rams go off for like 200 yards. Last week, they had a combined like 50. And then
Right.
Waddle and Tyreek Hill had over a combined 200 yards against the Jaguars, I'm pretty sure. And then against us, they had a combined 50. Like, it's actually insane how much we're able to slow down these passing attacks. It just doesn't make any sense how Bean's able to draft and McDermott's able to develop. Same thing with Babbage. These defenders. I mean, we're without Teron Johnson, our what is supposed to be our best player in our secondary, and then Cam Lewis and Jamarcus Ingram step right up, and they've been absolutely about as good as you can ask through backup guys who are stepping in. I mean, Cam Lewis has been a great tackler. He's probably made 4 or 5 tackles in the run game where it's either a tackle for loss or a 1 or 2 yard tackle where he's just blowing through a blocker where if he didn't make that tackle, it's a 10, 15 yard gain. And instead of it being first down, it's now second and third and long. And that really stalls the offensive drive. And then Jamarcus Ingram has been very, very good in coverage. Like, I did not expect this out of him. An undrafted free agent out of UB in 2022. He has really stepped up this year. His underlying numbers look great. He's obviously got the 2 interceptions, one of them being a pick 6. And it just makes me realize how good this 2022 draft class really was, even though we took Kyrie Elam in the first round, because we had James Cook in the second, Terrell Bernard in the third, Khalil Shakir in the fifth, Christian Benford in the sixth, and then undrafted guys. We had
Balin
Alec
Spector
Anderson.
even now in the 7th.
Yeah, Balin Spector now in the 7th. And then undrafted, Jamarcus Ingram, Kingsley Jonathan, and Alec Anderson, who have all made impacts on our roster. 3 undrafted guys to make an impact on the roster in 1 year. Like, I don't know what Bean was on that draft cycle, but he was really,
The only
really
thing he
cooking.
messed up was getting rid of Matt Araiza.
But at the same time, I understand why, because the full story wasn't out, but he was a fourth round punter. I mean, it wasn't
Not
like
forced.
punters aren't that important. Do you really want to deal with all this media like distractions for a 4th round punter? So I understand it.
round.
It sucks. And I wish we were able to keep him. I wish it never happened, but I do get it because again, does it bring that much
I
value?
mean, you can
I mean,
kind of make the argument. The only other thing that he did kind of mess up was Trey Smith was in this draft, and we definitely could have had him, which would have been
I
basically what
wouldn't
Osiris Torrance is now, but beforehand, and he wouldn't have went to the Chiefs, so that's double whammy. So
I wouldn't even say Trey Smith. I would say drafting Elam over Linderbaum. That's my only gripe. I loved Linderbaum coming out because then you wouldn't have had to give
Iowa's
Morris that
O-line was
contract.
solid.
Yeah, because Morris was a free agent after that year. If you draft Linderbaum, you let him sit for a year under Morris, and then
Get
we
rid
would
of
have
Morris.
the second. We would have the second best offensive line in the league right now, behind the Detroit Lions. I still think we have a top 5 unit, and I think McGovern's a good center, and David Edwards played decent at guard. But imagine if we were able to keep McGovern at guard because we had Tyler Linderbaum. I
Ooh,
mean,
yeah.
whew, that would be really, really scary to look at. So that's literally my
And the
only
Ravens
gripe. But
O-line would look that much worse
yeah,
than
it's
they already do.
it's yeah. I mean, at the same time though, it's almost impossible to like bat 1,000 in a draft class. And then this draft class itself
Unless
was
you're the
extremely weak.
2017 Saints.
Outside of like the top 15 guys, I mean, there's a lot of studs in the top 15. Sauce, Garrett Wilson, Olave, Aiden Hutchinson, Trayvon Walker, Thibodeau, Stingley.
I wouldn't throw
Or
Trayvon Walker in that.
But I still would. I think he's really good. But anyways, these top 15 guys, most of them turned out to be pretty good. But then I mean, you get to where we drafted. I mean, getting Elam, and then you get like the second round and later. I was actually just going over it earlier today. It is really, really thin. Like we got like the best player in the 5th round. We got the best player in the 6th round. We got, I think you could make an argument, the best player in the 3rd round. Like we were just like almost every other guy. It's like I've never heard of, or is basically just a backup. And then we're getting a
Right.
starter, all Pro Bowl level guy out of it. It's just extremely impressive. But back to the game. Some of my big issues with going into this game was I wanted to see how Dorian Williams looked and Terrell Bernard looked coming after a shaky week 1. And before Bernard got injured, he looked a lot better, and Dorian Williams looked so much better. He still is not good in pass coverage. I just
Hector
don't know
came in
if
and cleaned up too when Bernard
yeah,
left. So
exactly. I will get into that. But Dorian Williams in the run game, he was really flying to the ball. Last week, it looked like he was very like tentative. He had the athleticism to make plays, but I don't know. But he made a couple of really nice stops in
I
the run
feel
game.
like that's something about McDermott's defense, though, is like they're just conservative. That's the
But
thing is you're kind of taught that way. As a backup, you're kind of taught that way to just don't be the guy that fucks up. Just be the guy that's
but
there doing stuff.
but I mean, that's not how Matt Milano is. He's someone that reads, reacts. I'm
Matt
not saying,
Milano's a starter. I'm saying the backups. The
but
backups come in.
Dorian,
Their whole job is to not mess up. Same thing with like how Skylar Thompson's about to be the starter for the Dolphins this week, or Malik Willis in this game against the Colts.
Dorian
His whole
Williams is
job is
not a
just to
backup
not
though.
mess up.
Dorian Williams' job is to be a starter now because Matt Milano's almost out for the entire year. And he just didn't react very well. That was the thing. It was just slow reaction time. It didn't really. This week, though, he was reacting much faster and really shooting to the ball, and he really showed off that athleticism where there'd be plays where he wouldn't even put himself in the greatest position, but he's so quick and athletic where he'd get himself into a good position where he could make an impact on the play, even if he messed up right away, which is very good to see because if he can get more used to it and start reading even better and better, that athleticism can be really scary. And then Spector, as you said, he came in and he's also a big athletic guy. He came in and he played well. Like the linebackers were not really an issue for me this game. My issue more so came from the defensive line. Daquan looked better, but still inconsistent. Eddie, he had a couple of really nice plays. He played better than week 1, but he also
Stack on 2 on the 4th and 2.
He had a couple of nice pass rush reps. He had like 1 or 2 good reps in the run game, but he still was not great against the run. The touchdown drive and the field goal drive in the first half, like our defense was getting eaten alive. Our backup D line still does not inspire me very much at all. Epinesa played better, but not great. Tuhill played better, but still bad. Obviously, Vaughn is playing really good. Rousseau didn't have a great game especially compared to week 1. So the defensive line is still a little bit of a concern, but we still have plenty of time to figure that out. And then Hamlin, everyone was hating on why do we still have Hamlin? We need to cut Hamlin. He sucks. Oh my God, Hamlin's starting. Our defense is cooked, and he has come in and he has played great. I mean, has allowed nothing over the top, and then has made multiple great plays in the run game, like 3 or 4 times where he made a tackle that if he didn't, it's a 20-yard gain, and instead it was 5 yards or less. Like he's been absolutely key to the way this defense is played. And I saw a stat earlier today that through the first 2 games, quarterbacks are 0 for 9 with 2 picks when trying to throw 15 plus yards down the field in our defense. Do you have that stat right there? Yeah,
I was waiting. I was waiting. I was gonna say it eventually, but I was waiting.
That is just absolutely insane. And then in the offensive side of the ball, you couldn't ask for a more perfect game. I mean, right. Josh Allen has that hand injury, so you're not really wanting to rely on him too much because you don't want to make it worse, even though it's a non-throwing hand. You can tell it definitely affects him a little bit. I mean, he fumbled the 1 snap. He didn't look as aggressive to run. Not saying these are bad things, but he didn't look as aggressive in this game, but he also didn't need to. Like, he made the throws when counted. I mean, the in between triple coverage on Khalil Shakir, the throw to Ty Johnson, both those on the same drive. That was a touchdown drive where if he doesn't make either of those throws, we're not scoring a touchdown, probably not even a field goal. Like, two very, very impressive throws where it's like, that's exactly what I want out of this offense. Rely on the run game early, quick passes to keep the chains moving, keep us out of third and long. And then if we do happen to get in a third and long, it's like, okay, Josh, we're giving you exactly. We're in third down. Okay, Josh, we're giving you all this money. Go be Josh and get us that first down. And he's doing that. He's playing extremely efficient. I guess there was only one play. I think it was one of the drive we settled for a field goal. There was a play, or maybe it was before he threw it to Ty Johnson. I forgot. But it was a difference. I would have, like, there was an open guy kind of, but it's a difference between like this year. It looks like in years past, it was like Josh is running out to his right, and then Keon Coleman had like a crosser, or maybe it was Matt Collins across the field. I think it was Keon, and he had it open, but then the safety read it and was like kind of coming down, but Keon still had a spot where if Josh threw it like perfectly, he could have hit him for a nice 15-yard gain. But if he messed up that throw, if he threw that a little bit wide, if he sailed that a little bit, it's a pick. And that is not a very easy throw to make on the run like that. So instead, he just played it safe. I think he either checked it down or he threw it away, actually. And it's like, that's the difference between this year that I'm seeing and years past. Years past, he's trying to make that throw every single time. Sometimes it's completed and sometimes it's a pick that instead of getting 3 points and a game we're already winning, because I think we're up by, I think it was like 14-7 at that point, or I think we were winning at the time. Instead of getting the points in a game that our defense is playing really good in a run game, like where we don't have to rely on him, he would have tried to make that throw and put himself at risk for an interception. So it's great. I would have liked to see him be able to make that throw. Obviously, guy was open. It would have been an extremely impressive throw. But I also do like that he decided, I'm just going to play it safe. Let's just make sure we get points, and I trust the rest of my team. And that's a side of Josh that we haven't really seen. I think part of that, you have to give credit to Joe Brady, the way he's been able to coach this offense and coach Josh into being like, no, trust the offense. Let's do the check downs. Let's do the run play. And then boom, eventually something big will open up. And if not, if we just keep running it down their throats and throwing these short passes, then who cares? Like, yeah, obviously Josh is my MVP pick. I want him to win MVP. If he put up 500 yards and 7 touchdowns every single game, I'd be ecstatic. But I am perfectly fine with 139 yards, a touchdown, and us win by 3 touchdowns. Like, I'm never going to get playing with a 3-touchdown win, no matter how Josh played. Like, he wasn't asked to do much. He did exactly what he needed to do, and that's exactly how I want this offense to be. I don't want it to be Josh Allen Hero.
It really was, because you had Josh with the hand injury. You didn't want to have him play superhero. You didn't want to have him run on 3rd and 10 and dive for a first down. You know, you didn't want to have to see him hurdle anybody this week. And literally, we came out here, we proficiently affected their entire offensive scheme. We worked on everything perfectly on offense. Everything worked out just the way they wanted it to. And it's like, it fit like a glove. And I know that's a funny reference to say coming from a Bills team here, but I'm really serious. James Cook did everything he had to do. This offensive line was great. Josh Allen didn't have to be superhero like last week, and that was very crucial, especially with the hand injury.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
Yeah, so basically the thing is with this game, for me, the only thing that's a little concerning is just the turnovers, really. You want to see the team kind of capitalize more often on the turnovers. The first one we did, the second one we got the field goal, third one we didn't get anything. So to kind of like see, like the third one was an intercept. It was a pick six. So like you know what I'm saying though. I'm saying the offense didn't have to do anything, but basically what you want to see more often is stuff like that. But again, that's just nitpicking. Realistically, you want to see the run defense do a little bit better than what they did too, though. Devon Achane did have a solid game. But realistically, it's a good game. We did very good. We got the job done. Buffalo with a 2-0 record again. And so that's going to weigh us into our first of many upsets this week. It was the Vikings and the 49ers in Minnesota. Sam Darnold against his former team. And he gets the win, 23-17. Honestly, it wasn't even 17 to me. The Niners got that touchdown late to make it even close. What are your thoughts on this one here for this one?
Yeah, I just want to say I called it Sam Darnold breakout. I mean, everyone was like, "Oh my God, the Vikings are screwed now that JJ McCarthy's injured."
We
Because
both did.
Sam
We
Darnold,
both
yeah,
did.
yeah, exactly. I remember, yeah, me and you both were like, "No, I think we think Sam Darnold could have a good year," and everyone's like, "Oh, the Vikings are so bad now without JJ McCarthy," and
All the
it's like,
fans crying. Oh,
yeah,
our team's the
JJ
worst.
wasn't
Like,
even gonna start, which is the funny part. Like, it was Sam
no.
Darnold starting all the way anyway. But I
It
don't
was Sam
understand.
Darnold's job to lose, and everybody knew that. He
Exactly.
knew that. JJ knew that. And he came out, and with the way he's played the first 2 weeks, there's no reason to have benched him for JJ McCarthy, whether or not he
Nope.
got injured for 2 weeks or the whole season. Didn't
Yeah.
matter. With the way Darnold's playing, he was starting regardless.
Exactly. And I just was, as I was saying, people, I'm like, people. I don't think people realized until this year how much coaching really matters. It is. You
I
can make
feel
an
like
argument that
I feel
having
like last year we learned a lot too with the Baker
but
Mayfield and
this year
Dave
is,
Canales thing.
but I mean, I think this year even more with Baker Mayfield now without Dave Canales because they brought in another guy, and then
Right.
I mean Derek Carr, I mean Sam Darnold, Gardner Minshew's been playing pretty decent. I mean, there's a lot of guys that with great coaching have played really well, and then there's obviously bad coaching. I mean, the Bears' offensive scheme is terrible, and their
Oh, yeah.
offensive line sucks. I mean, their offensive line probably has the same amount of talent as the Saints, but the thing is, the Saints have a great scheme, and the Bears don't, and that's why the Bears' line looks awful, and the Saints looks like it's one of the best in football. It's like Trevor Penning went from being the worst tackle in the league to now playing really good all of a sudden. You think he just magically went from god awful to Pro Bowl level? No,
Right.
a lot of it has to do with the scheme. Like great
Yeah.
coaching can mask a lot of things. Obviously, if you don't have a great quarterback, great coaching can only take you so far, as we've seen from the 49ers. They've been able to make it to the Super Bowl, but they can't get over the hump because they don't have the elite quarterback, and they've lost to Patrick Mahomes both times because great
He is the
quarterbacks.
quarterback.
Yes, great quarterback's about the only thing that can do more. It's probably the only thing that's more important than a great coaching staff. A great
I saw
great
some
coaching staff.
funny some funny thing about Justin Herbert potentially was the Niners were looking at drafting Justin Herbert, but they didn't want to move on from Jimmy G just yet, so they didn't make a trade.
Exact or like
Could you
or
imagine
for
Justin
example.
Herbert? Oh my god.
Yeah, but I mean, look at the Chargers. They haven't really asked much out of him, but they probably have less talent than they did last year, but they're a better team this year. The difference
Oh,
is
not
coaching.
probably. They do. They do have less.
Yes.
The
Yeah,
only
they have
real
less
difference
talent
has
than
been
last year.
Dobbins and the
Yeah.
coaching. Yeah.
Exactly. They have less talent
And you
than
know
last
that
year, but they're a
behemoth
better
of a
team
tackle.
because the coaching is so much better. But back to the Vikings. I mean, as I was saying, I'm like, you have a very good offensive line. You got Aaron Jones, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, even though he's been injured. TJ Hawkinson will come back. Like, he's got weapons to throw to. Having Justin Jefferson makes it really easy because he's the best receiver in football. But Kevin O'Connell has put together this great offensive scheme that run first, play action. These great coaches, what they're able to do is they're find the QB strengths and exploit them, like make the offense revolve around the QB strengths and then like hide their weaknesses the best they can. Like what's Darnold's biggest weakness? His decision making isn't great. So what's Kevin O'Connell doing? A lot of play action, a lot of easy stuff where he can show off how good his arm is, where it's like simple reads. It's like, okay, this will be open, if not this, and then this, and then like where it's like Darnold doesn't have to try and look at these defenses because right after the snap, he can like see more pre-snap because there's a lot of motion, which is extremely important in this day and age. They're just making the offense super simple for him so he can use his physical tools to go out and make these plays like that beautiful deep ball he had on that 97-yard touchdown pass in Justin Jefferson. Like, I knew Sam Darnold still had the talent, but the coaching has really just killed him. And then on the 49ers side of the ball, Brock Purdy has showed that he is nothing more than a good game manager. I mean, without McCaffrey, without Samuel for part of the game, without Kittle for part of the game, this against the Vikings defense that, I mean, doesn't have a lot of talent, but again, coaching. The Vikings have a top 5 coaching staff.
I'd argue against that.
And then you have Brian Flores is probably the best defensive coordinator in the league. I mean,
he's close.
The only reason he got fired from Miami is because he hated Tua and they wanted to build around Tua. That's really it. I mean, he is head coach worthy, and he is an elite defensive coordinator. The way he's able to revamp that defense, it doesn't have a lot of talent, but at the same time, you're Brock Purdy. You still have Brandon Ayuk. Jordan Mason's look good. You still have Trent Williams. You have Kyle Shanahan calling these plays.
Juwan Jennings.
Juwan Jennings is good. Debo played most of the game. Kittle played most of the game. And you still weren't able to score any points. And it just shows that if the Niners give him that money, it's going to be a huge mistake. Because, yeah, he plays the offense well, but if they're not with all of their star guys, he is not good enough to elevate. And if he gets paid, some of them are going to have to go. Probably Debo. And then maybe McCaffrey down the line because they show how good Jordan Mason has been. Some of these guys are going to go, and then it's really going to show, Brock Purdy isn't what we thought he was. And I guess – and then, one more thing I wanted to say is Fred Warner is an absolute animal. That dude is on another level right now. That interception he had, the hit that caused the fumble, the fumble he had week 1 against Breece Hall, he is just on another – he is I don't know what he took, but he is on one right now.
Yeah, but one thing I can say though about the opposite side here, I guess, is realistically with Sam Darnold, he had the interception, obviously, but I think that's more to just how good Fred Warner's been. And another thing that you really have to kind of consider in this day and age of football is, like you were saying about the different schemes, all these different things, those are very important. And another thing that Sam Darnold really struggles with is those zone coverage looks. He's not very good in zone coverage. He doesn't know where to pick the zone and pick certain spots right. That's part. Yeah, exactly. It's part of his decision making. And so the whole big deal with that though is when they run the ball so much, you kind of have to go away from that zone coverage because when you run the ball in zone coverage, you have so many holes as the running back. So if they're eating you alive while you're doing these zone coverages, you're going to eventually have to go to man. And man coverage against Justin Jefferson, who's the best receiver in the league, is just not going to work. We saw how that worked against the goal line. They decided to run man coverage because they knew they were right on the goal line. They were expecting a run. And then all of a sudden, here comes the play action. Here comes the bomb over the top of the defense because Jettas is just better. And that's just what happens. It's just this kind of a football game. And they whittled them down that whole first quarter. This game, Kyle Shanahan, you should be ashamed. You got outcoached. It's just that plain and simple. You did. You let them get away with these things. You let them make you kind of learn a lesson from this. And I think that's one thing that can be attributed to what the 49ers are going to do in the next few weeks, I think. I think the Niners are going to bounce back from this very nicely. But on the outlook for the Vikings, Sam Darnold, he had 268 yards, I think, or something like that. He had the 2 touchdowns, of course. He had a very, very good game. And realistically, if he can just do this for the majority of the season and that defense keeps playing the way they did, then I don't see how the Vikings are going to be doubted for much longer. They're going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers of this season, it looks like. And that's very fun to see because I predicted this. You predicted this. It's cool to kind of see a prediction work in our favor for once,
Actually, no, I predicted the Vikings to be bad, but only because I wanted them to be bad because we have their second-round pick. If I was unbiasedly picking them, yeah, I could have seen them probably be this good. But I picked them to be awful because I want them to be awful.
In my other podcast, I had the Vikings go 8-9, and my friend looked at me. He's like, 8-9 for the Vikings, and I'm like, well, because the Vikings, I think they're still going to be solid. It's just the only issue I have is they have a pretty tough schedule. I didn't expect them to beat the Niners. I don't expect them to beat Houston this week coming up either. You have the Lions and the Packers in your division as well. If you play the Packers,
Jordan Love is already healthy somehow. He's practicing. He practiced today.
Yeah, so that's the thing is if that's going to be the case, then I think those are probably 4 losses right there. Maybe you steal one against Green Bay, but I don't see you beating Detroit. So we'll see how that all shapes up for them. But yeah, they don't beat Houston either, and they have some other tough games down the road. So I do think that it'll be a solid season for Minnesota, though. So very optimistic for this team, but a great week for them. They get it done. One of the biggest upsets, in my opinion, of this week. We'll get to another one here shortly, but we're going to move right into this. It's Seahawks-Patriots, and we're going to go a little quicker here. Seattle 23, Patriots 20. Jacoby Brissett and their team keep it close, but the Seahawks win basically all because of that one play where Metcalf got completely left alone for a touchdown. So realistically, what are your thoughts on this one?
I mean, I like Gino played really good. Well, I
Oh, yeah.
thought he was a bad quarterback, but he at
Oh,
least
I
showed me
still
wrong for this
do.
game. But he at least showed me wrong for this game. That offense, if he plays like that, can be pretty lethal. Without their star running back, I mean Charbonnet's decent, but without Kenny Walker, they played really, really good. And then in the
I will say he had that amazing throw and like across his body in triple coverage as he was about to get hit by
yeah,
one of the
no,
D
he has made
linemen
some
to Smith and
he made
Jigba.
some pretty impressive throws. And then their secondary looks about as good as everyone thought. Their front seven scares me a little bit. The way Hunter Henry was able to attack those linebackers and Ramondre was able to run on their team without a particularly good Patriots offensive line. That does worry me a little bit, but at the same time, they were able to get the win. And then on the Patriots side of the ball, they have really impressed me so far this year. I have a hot take. I already told you this off the air, but next year, the New England Patriots will be the second best team in the AFC East behind the Buffalo Bills. I truly believe that because I think Drake May will solidify himself as a very good quarterback next year. I think he could play like a top 10 guy next year after sitting for a while, being able to develop, and then I'm assuming in this draft they're gonna go heavy offense, probably get some more alignment, probably get another receiver, and they have a bunch of cap space and free agency to really build out that team. I really like the direction this team is going. Granted, it's only been 2 games. They played the week 1 Bengals, which usually suck, and then they lost to the Seahawks. But at the same time, I thought they were gonna. I did not expect them to be able to play as well they did. I thought they were going to get blown out both games. So they've impressed me. Gerard Mayo looks like a good coach, and this defense looks like it is pretty good. Christian Gonzalez is a stud.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he definitely is. We all knew that going back to his days with Oregon, but realistically, I think one thing here for this game that really kind of bothered me was that 4th and 1 in overtime. I'm sorry, but you got to go. You got to go there. At that point, there was no way you were stopping them. It was that late in the game that you're not getting the ball back in that situation. They're going to drive down and at least get the field goal. The way they were moving the ball in the second half, there was just no chance you were stopping them. And that's one thing about the coaching style right there. You got to go for that 4th down. I'm sorry, it's all or nothing in that situation. It's 4th and a yard. You don't trust the offense to go get you a yard. Like I do believe in Stevenson to go and get 1 yard, or even quarterback sneak with Brissett. He's done it so many times. Yeah, exactly. He can definitely get you that yard. And with Stevenson pushing him from behind, it's just even more of a guarantee at that point. But I didn't like the non-aggressiveness to go for that. Obviously, they had the blown coverage with Metcalf for the 56-yard touchdown, too. That bothered me as well, obviously. But one thing I want to say about the Patriots is before we all sit here and say the Patriots are amazing, they're doing great, this, that, and the third, I'm sorry, but the one thing I will live and die on is certain times in the week 1 and week 2, all the way until about week 4, don't take any team fully seriously until around week 4, week 5, for the simple fact that you can play, like, no one knows how good the other teams are. No one knows what their schemes are. So much turmoil happens in the offseason. So many people change. So many head coaching changes. So many offensive coordinator changes. All these different things happen, and schemes are going to change. Teams are going to go from air heavy, where they're going to throw the ball 20, 30 times a game, to a team that's ground and pound the next year. Like the Chargers last year. They threw the ball so much.
The Bills.
Yeah, exactly. And these teams change. And that's what I'm saying with the New England Patriots. Is just, I feel like it's not as much about the Patriots being good as it is about the other teams not knowing what the Patriots were going to do yet.
Oh, I still don't think the Patriots are going to be good this year. Don't get me wrong.
I'm not saying
I
they
still
are.
think they
I'm
finished
just
like
saying-
5-12. I'm just saying they've played better than I thought up to this point. I'm saying next year after a full off season to keep building on this. No, I still think they end up like
especially with the
5-12
cap
this year.
space.
I don't think they're a good team.
No, trust me, I feel you. But there's people out there that are saying, "Oh, the Patriots might be able to sneak into the playoffs." There's no way in hell.
No.
There's no way
No.
in hell.
No shot.
There's no way. And I'm sorry, but like it's the facts. Is at the beginning of the year, you got teams that just don't know what they're going to be expecting on the opposite side. And that's a big issue, especially early on in the year against these teams like New England, where they changed so much in the offseason. Now you're going to see a team that runs the ball 30 times a game, and you're going to have to get used to it with Brissett being the game manager. And that can be very hard to beat. It really can be very hard to beat, but when it's Jacoby Brissett, it's only a matter of time before he makes a mistake, or it's only a matter of time before something ends up giving, of course. So that's going to be all for that Seahawks game. It was very close all the way down to the end. The Patriots did give them a very good run for their money, but a Jason Myers field goal gets them the win. So Seattle remains unbeaten with 2 wins against 2 of the worst teams in the league. Moving on to our next game here, the Commanders versus the Giants. I had Washington winning this game. You had the Giants winning. I was the one that was in the right for this one. The Giants become the first team in NFL history to lose a game after scoring 3 touchdowns on offense. Absolutely pathetic. But what are your thoughts on this one, Alex? As Jaden Daniels did get injured in this game.
I mean, I kind of predicted the game right. I just forgot the fact that the Giants are the Giants, and they'll find to lose games in the ways no one ever has, as they just did. I mean, 3 touchdowns to 0, and they still lost the game. I mean, Malik Neighbors basically dropped the game himself, which I understand he's beating himself up over, and I'm not going to hate on him too hard. Drops happen. Just sucks that it was in such a crucial moment like that. He had such a good game, though. He is in that same situation, really though,
that they could have got a field goal if Graham Gano was healthy.
Yeah. Also, yeah, what a coaching blunder by the Patriots. They have a kicker on their practice squad. They just didn't pull him up. They'd rather just go no kicker than pull up the kicker on the practice squad.
So what ended up happening is Graham Gano told him he'd be fine. He said that he felt good to go in the last day of practice on Friday. My dad's a big Giants fan. He told me about a couple of these things. And one thing I ended up finding out through Twitter, actually, was the Giants informed Graham Gano they were going to pull the other kicker up, and Graham Gano told him that he was ready to go. He was supposed to be designated as a game-time decision. He went for the opening kickoff, and he kind of re-aggravated the injury on that opening kickoff and just couldn't go for the remainder of the game.
So he did make the open. I didn't know he made the opening kickoff. I thought
he started. He started the game and then just kind of like faded out. And he
I still honestly.
So
honestly, if I'm the Giants, I still elevate that guy because what was it, a hammy injury?
I feel like kicker is the most important position in the entire NFL to have a backup for. I think kicker is the most important position to have a backup for, dude. For the
was it a hammy injury? Do you know if it was a hammy injury?
I'm not sure what it was. I think it might have been a hamstring injury.
Exactly. A kicker with a hamstring injury on their kicking leg, and you don't bring up the guy? I mean, yeah, even if he said he's good, you should be like, no, we're bringing him up just in case you re-aggravate it. Like, that it's still a coaching blunder. How do you not have you have a guy in your practice squad? How do you not elevate him either way? In case that happens, it's like, all right, now we still have his backup. Like, an absolute coaching blunder by the Giants that cost them the game. Because one, then they have all 3 of those extra points most likely. So then even when the Commanders kicked that field goal, it's only to tie the game. They could still win overtime. And 2, you're right,
they would have the extra points.
Well, no, those extra points that would have made it 21-21. And then, like you said, they would have kicked that field goal. So then the Commanders would have been up 24-18. The Commanders would have had to go for a touchdown. And the Giants show that they had a really good red zone defense. So honestly, they probably would have won that game if they called up that kicker. I'm being honest. Probably because they go for it another time on 4th down in field goal range too. There was just an absolute coaching blunder by the Giants. So really, what I said, my reasonings on why I thought the Giants would win this game, a lot of it happened. It's just the Giants are the Giants, and Brian Daboll is proving to not be a very good coach right now. So I think that's kind of the part I forgot to bring into it, is that the Giants are the Giants. The Commanders still suck. I think the Giants just somehow outsucked them.
Yeah. I feel like this is kind of one of those games where it kind of makes you feel for the Giants here that how are they going to win a game this season?
Do they play the Panthers?
No, I know, but I'm saying
that's how they win a game this year. They're playing the Panthers.
Yes, but what I'm saying is this was one of those games where those Giants fans are sitting there thinking to themselves, how are we going to win a football game this year? Like, we did everything right. Daniel Jones had a decent game. Malik Neighbors elevated and went off in this one. The defense stepped up, got key stops in the red zone when they needed to. Everything was going right, but you still couldn't find a way. And honestly, I was not convinced on the other sideline because Jaden Daniels needs to learn how to finish drives. It was absolutely atrocious what he was doing in this game. He was running for his life. He had nothing else going for him. That's all he can do is run. And I've said this so many times. And then on top of that, all these stupid people on Instagram, Twitter, all these different apps are telling me, oh, he's not going to get injured. And he literally got injured, and it's week 2. It's week 2. he's running for his life. He's going to get injured. And, oh, no, he'll be fine. Literally, he came up limping twice in this game. Like, I'm telling you, it's just hilarious how stupid people are. Because Washington, there's no way you're going to be able to succeed with a quarterback that has the legs of, like, super glue. Like, I'm sorry, it's just over. Like, there's no hope in that situation. This was a game from start to finish that was just very boring, back and forth, just boring game still. It's always what the Giants-Commanders games are. They're so close, but they're so bad. It's just you're wondering who's going to make the final mistake that costs them the game. And unfortunately for the Giants in this case, the one mistake was not elevating a kicker from the practice squad. They are the only team in NFL history, the only team I could ever envision in my life being the dumbest team ever to be the team that does that, other than maybe the Panthers right now.
The Panthers wouldn't be able to score 3 touchdowns in a game.
No,
the Panthers also wouldn't be able to hold a team to 0 touchdowns in a game. They're too bad for that to even happen.
They literally just caught their leading tackle.
Yeah, the dude had 3 TFLs and a sack, and he was their leading sack getter with 1, and their leading TFL guy with 3.
And they caught him.
And they caught him. Yeah, I know.
But the Commanders win this one. A pretty sad game on both sides. But we're gonna move on to obviously the Panthers game. Chargers-Panthers. I predicted 24-6 in this one, and it was 26-3. So I mean, I did a pretty good job at predicting this one.
I don't remember what
Bryce
my
Young obviously was
benched.
It was close. So Bryce Young was benched. So what are your thoughts on this one? Obviously, we're gonna probably go quick on this one.
The Panthers suck. The Chargers are really good. And by the Panthers suck, I mean they're looking like the worst team in NFL history right now. I don't know if it's completely Bryce Young. I don't know if Dave Canales just isn't as good as we think he is. I don't know if it's just the Panthers being the Panthers. I don't know if the receiving core is just really bad. I don't know exactly what it is, but we will find out. I don't know if it's just the Chargers and Saints having elite defenses. We will find out more against the Raiders on Sunday because, as you said, Bryce Young got benched for Andy Dalton, who is a veteran guy who will at least be capable of putting together a decent offense, unless it's just an awful position where no one can succeed. Like if Andy Dalton has a bad game, we're like, okay, we know it's not Bryce's fault as much. But if Andy can go down and at least push the ball down the field, have 150, 200 yards and like a touchdown or 2, maybe even a pick, just at least like not just check it down every play and can move around in the pocket and actually make some throws, then we'll be like, okay, this Bryce Young experiment, obviously it failed. David Tepper is the worst owner in the league. We already knew that. He just ruined this team. But if he goes out and he plays just as bad as Bryce Young, then we can at least cut him some slack and be like, okay, maybe it isn't completely his fault. Maybe they're just giving him absolutely nothing. And then on the Chargers side of the ball, their defense looks absolutely elite. And last year, their defense looked absolutely awful. They basically added no one.
They did play the Panthers, so.
Okay, but they looked elite against the Raiders, too, who went out and dropped 26 against the Ravens after dropping 10 against them. They've allowed 13 points in 2 games. I mean, how you slice it, their defense has looked elite so far. And the difference between this year and last year is coaching. They went from the worst coach in the league to one of the most best and well-respected coaches in the league in Jim Harbaugh. The defensive coordinator is doing great. The run game with J.K. Dobbins is revitalized. They have like the best tackle duo in the league right now. Their O-line is great. Quentin Johnson's looked better. That's what I said. I expected him to not be great, but I expected him to be better. The Panthers are the only
team in the NFL that could give up 2 touchdowns to Quentin Johnson.
But I mean, Quentin Johnson has looked better based on the fact that he could not look worse than last year.
I mean, when you're going up a 5th grader, like when you're going up against a 5th grader at corner, I mean, like you're gonna eventually get open, and if it's a wide open pass, it's almost like you're in practice.
Yeah, what happened to J.C. Horn? That fall off is crazy. But
he had the interception in this game, but that was on Herbert, not as much as Horn was good.
And the thing is, like, they're basically building out a Walmart Bills where a great run game. Their run game's maybe a little bit better. Great offensive line. Offensive line's probably about the same. And then they want their quarterback to have to make plays when needed.
I think they have better tackles just because I think Rashawn Slater's a little bit better.
We have a better overall offensive line because I think our interior is much better than theirs.
Yes, I think our interior is a lot better. But just tackles?
Their tackle duo is better. I will give you that, but not by a lot.
I think Slater and Dawkins same level, but Alt's just way better than Spencer Brown, and that's not to discredit Spencer Brown.
I think Slater's better than Dawkins. Dawkins is the Pro Bowl level. Dawkins and Spencer Brown are Pro Bowl level tackles. Alton Slater are all pro level tackles. I think that's really the difference. But the thing is, I think our O line and our skill positions and our play calling and quarterback are all just a little bit better than the Chargers. That's why I said a Walmart version, because we're
Right.
basically better at all the different phases, but by a little bit. But it's a similar built offense, and then they're
Yeah.
great defense, and they're winning games because they're not making their franchise quarterback play hero ball. They're making them just make the throws when needed.
Yeah. I think the only thing I really need to say is in J.K. Dobbins, we trust. The defenses looked great. And Quentin Johnson, congratulations on the best game of your career. That will probably still be that in 5 years down the line. Moving on, we're going to go to the Cowboys and the Saints game. Another one of those upsets. I had 31-17 Cowboys in this game, and the Cowboys were the other team on that side. It was more of the other side. Alvin Kamara has 4 touchdowns in this game. He went nuts. He had 41 points in fantasy this week, which is just absolutely bonkers. But Dallas just gets completely blown away, aside from one CeeDee Lamb touchdown, which was the highlight of their game. What are your thoughts on this one?
The Saints are just greatly matched up against the Cowboys. I mean, the same thing happened when the Cowboys played the Packers and the Bills last year. The Cowboys just cannot stop the run. Micah Parsons is a top 3 pass rusher in this league. He is not a good run defender. He's all right at it.
Lawrence is pass rush too.
Exactly. They're great pass rushers, but against the run, they can keep the contain all right, but they're not like a Myles Garrett or TJ Watt who will get after the passer, but then also will stop the run because we'll keep contained, but also get off blocks.
And you're going up against a pretty good offensive line in the interior, at least with Eric McCoy.
And then their D tackles are just god awful. Mozzie Smith sucks. Linval Joseph sucks.
Too.
Their off-ball linebackers suck. Like everyone in that defense is quite bad. Besides Michael in that secondary and DeMarcus Lawrence, they have good pass rushers, good secondary.
Well, the thing is with the secondary, it doesn't matter how good of a secondary you have because eventually they're going to have to come up to stop the run to help. And that's when you beat them over the top with Olave like they did.
Well, I don't think their safeties are good either. They have two good corners and then one elite pass rusher and one good pass rusher, and the rest of that defense is awful. They have 4 players who are like quality starters, and everyone else in that defense is quite bad.
They're literally the epitome of having like kings and pawns. That's it. That's all they have. Because they have the best of the best, and then they have garbage everywhere.
That's how their offense is, too. They have, like, a couple of really good offensive linemen. Dak's a good quarterback, one really good receiver, a good tight end, and then
solid Brandon Cooks, I guess.
Yeah, and then after that, it's just that's the reason why when they go up against these good teams, they always fall because these good teams have the star power to match them, but then they also have the depth to destroy them, and that's. The Saints, they're the better coach team. Obviously, Clint Kubiak has really reformed that offense. I mean, I didn't have car insurance before this year, but I sure do now. Election year, Derek Carr. I mean, that's all I got to say. Look up election year Derek Carr. I don't know what it is. Maybe he's just really political and wants to show off. No idea. But 2016, the best year of his career. 2020, there was the revitalization of his career. 2024 looks like the best year of his career so far through 2 games.
Every 4 years, and his number's 4.
It's election year Carr.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that must be when he renews his car insurance.
Yeah. Well, here we go. That's all I want to say.
Yeah, here we get destroyed.
So the thing is with Dallas here, it was a bad game from start to finish. It got worse at the beginning than it was at the end, obviously, but realistically, that's because the Saints showed a little bit of mercy in the second half, which if I'm playing Dallas, I'm never doing. But I'm sorry for the Cowboys fans that actually thought they had a chance this year. Thank you, Saints, for proving to them that they're not going to do anything with their lives again this season. So we appreciate
How about
that.
them Cowboys, as Stephen A. Smith would say.
How about them boys? So very tough game for them. 44-19 is just absolutely atrocious. But we're going to move into the next game, which I had an absolute blowout, Indianapolis and Green Bay. I thought Indianapolis was running away with this. This is exactly why your prediction of them winning going 10-7 and making a wild card is just not going to happen for me. They lost to Malik Willis and the Green Bay Packers 16-10. Alex, what are your thoughts on this one?
I mean, Anthony Richardson, he has, as I said, he's going to have some really good games. He's going to have some really bad games. It's just the growing pains. I still think he develops into a good quarterback, but it's kind of similar to Josh Allen's second year. He had some really good games. I mean, there was the game against Miami.
The
I think there
Cowboys
was like
won
a
on
game.
Thanksgiving.
Yep, there's the Cowboys game. I think there's a game against Washington. But
He
then he
played
has
the
games
Jets, yeah.
like that game against the Patriots where he threw 3 picks. And
Right.
that's just
Well, the game against Denver too, where he went nuts.
exactly. Yeah. Oh, yeah. The Denver game. But yeah, then
How many
there's the
times do we
really
have to
bad game.
score?
Yeah. But then there's the really, really bad games. And those really
Right.
bad games will lose you a game that you should win. Because I mean, the Colts did hold the Packers to 16 points. The problem is they only scored 10 because Anthony Richardson had a bad game. And
Right.
I'm not surprised. I mean, I'm surprised they lost this game, but I'm not surprised seeing Anthony Richardson had a bad game. But besides, he still made some good plays. I mean, they got a touchdown at the end of the game. He was able to push the ball down the field, and that's why, like, people saying he's gonna be like an MVP candidate, I'm like, all right, that's a little bit too much. But
Right.
I still love him in fantasy because despite the fact that he had a bad, like 3 picks and a bad game, he still had like 14, 15 fantasy points when he had a really bad game. Then when he has a really good game, he has you like 30. So like that's where I was high on him in that aspect, and I'm still high on him as a quarterback to grow because of that rushing upside and that freakish arm. His floor is still like decently high. Like even if he has a bad game passing, he can still make some plays where you can at least do a little bit of something. And then the Colts rush defense is bad. I mean, they allowed 160 against Mixon and then 150 against Josh Jacobs. Like I really thought having DeForest Buckner, adding Laitu Latu, having Kwity Paye having Zaire Franklin, their run defense would be really good. I don't know if it's coaching. I don't know if just like Buckner's washed or Zaire Franklin's just a tackle merchant. I'm not exactly sure. I'm not super tight in with the Colts, but holy crap, that run game is awful. And the Packers looked really good running the ball. I mean, Josh Jacobs looked like he earned that contract. I mean, they won a game where they gave him the ball 30 times and Malik Willis threw like 10 times. They're like, yeah, we're just going to run it down your throats, try and stop us. And they really couldn't. I mean, 16 points isn't great, but that was a great game plan. Matt LaFleur showed why he's a top 10, top 5 coach in the league.
Yeah, one thing about this game that kind of made me understand a little bit about that coaching aspect, if you will, is they just kind of came in here expecting to win this game. The Colts did. And it was one of those games, they don't have love. They didn't feel – they kind of felt lazy. It felt like coming out into this game, they didn't feel like the Colts that were on fire last week. They didn't come out with a passion, come out with that fire that like, okay, we can do this. We can win. This is a team and C.J. Stroud and the Texans that are supposed to be Super Bowl favorites this year. Let's go out and put the league on notice. This was one of those games. They got Malik Willis at quarterback. Like, let's go do this. They had no fight. They had no effort. And they kind of got smacked in the mouth, especially in the beginning of this game. They were down 10-0 quick. And it was one of those games where it's like that coaching element really paid dividends for the Packers here because they came out with a game plan. And even though the Colts picked up on that game plan as the game went on, it was still enough because they got those 10 points early on that they desperately needed because they knew they had to come out here with the game plan that the Colts weren't ready for to score some points early to keep the Colts from winning this one. And that's exactly what happened. That's exactly how they won this football game by 6 points at the end. And realistically, this was never close. It came down to an onside kick at the end, which how many times is an onside kick going to get recovered? Especially now where you can't even do it like you can't tell them, like you have to tell them you're going to do an onside kick now. Like
that's where I think the onside kick should be eliminated and they should do a 4th and 15 from your own 35.
Yes, exactly. Especially with Richardson as your quarterback. Could you imagine that situation with Anthony Richardson as your quarterback? Richardson
he'll just run against you to 15.
Yeah, exactly.
He'll just hurdle 3 guys, truck 3 more, and somehow get the first down.
Lateral it backwards like Will Levis. But it's
and then
one
put
of those games
over his head's like, what am I doing? I don't know.
They actually turned the one of him like throwing the pass last week against the Jets into like him swimming in the ocean. It was so funny. But I couldn't unsee it after that, bro. I lost it. But we're gonna move into the next one here, which we're not gonna do Titans Jets next, but we're doing Browns Jaguars. Deshaun Watson actually had a very good week in all aspects here, really. He had a couple plays. Amari Cooper went up and out for like a pass at the sticks, and he dropped it on a third down. So there was a situation like that where like you got to have those if you're Amari Cooper. A couple other guys dropped it. I actually saw a stat. He is the first quarterback of the season and of the last 11 years to have 5 different receivers drop a pass in one game. And that's actually an insanely tragic stat considering it's just karma at this point. Right? How shitty of a person.
Yeah. No, that's totally karma for him.
Yeah, for how shitty of a person he is, that's exactly karma. But nobody wanted to catch the ball for him. They're like, nah, bro, we ain't catching this. You can catch that lawsuit though. But anyway, I do think that the
catch that massage later.
Yeah, right. But I'm gonna catch you later, bro. But I think the Browns had a very good game. Jags came out flat in this one. And one thing about the Jacksonville Jaguars that I'm quickly noticing is they're gonna be a lot like the Saints are, where they're gonna run heavy. They're gonna be run heavy and do play actions and use Lawrence as kind of a car situation where he's going to be in like a play action sense where they're not going to like do much other than run the ball with ETN a lot and then throw it when they have to with Lawrence because of the way Lawrence has started. And the Browns just match up perfectly for that. They have one of the best run defenses in the league. So realistically, ETN had no room to run in this game. Already had a lack of confidence after the fumble in week 1. So the Browns do get the win 18-13. What are your thoughts on this one, Alex? This was a pretty ugly one, in my opinion.
Doug Peterson needs to be fired, and they need to spend every draft pick on an offensive lineman next draft. That's just the first second. Draft 8 offensive linemen, and whoever they cut every lineman you have in your team. Then draft 8 offensive linemen, and those can be your 8 offensive linemen next year because their line sucks. Their line is bad. Their play design. Doug Peterson. What happened to you? You suck now. You need to be fired. Your scheme sucks. And then what they should do is, I was looking at it the other day. I don't even remember the dude's name, but whoever is the offensive coordinator for the Rams or the 49ers, just pick one of them out of a hat.
Oh, Gary Kubiak.
No, I don't think it was Gary. No, Clint Kubiak was the one just got hired by the Saints. But that's what the Saints, literally what the Saints and the Bucs did is they hired the Niners and Rams offensive coordinators to be their offensive coordinators.
Who are the best in the league now.
And then, I mean, obviously, McVay and Shanahan are great coaches. Mike McDaniel's a great coach. Matt LaFleur is a great coach.
Dennis Allen
/ Bobby Slowick's a good coach. I mean, over in Atlanta, Raheem Morris and Zach Robinson look like they're putting some together decently. Like everywhere you go, if they have a McVay Shanahan guy running their offense looks pretty good. And so what the why can't I? Sorry, lost my train. What the Jaguars should do?
Yeah,
fire their coach, fire their offensive coordinator, fire the defensive coordinator, and just hire 3 guys from that staff. Just pick them out of a hat because you're guaranteed it's probably going to work anyways. Like I don't know, whoever you like the 3, just interview every single person from those 2 staffs, and whichever 3 you like the best, just hire them immediately. Pretty simple as that. And your team will probably be a lot better next year. That's really all.
It's hilarious to me that we say this stuff, and it's so funny because obviously it probably doesn't work like that, but it feels like it does. So yeah, I do think that this is one of those
every single times. And that was even me forgetting about Kevin O'Connell being one of the best coaches in the league. Like the only elite coaches out there that aren't like McVay, or the only really good coaches out there that aren't like McVay Shanahan guys are Andy Reid, the Bills coaching staff and the Lions coaching staff.
I wouldn't count McDermott. I'd count Campbell in there, yeah.
But I would know. I'm saying coaching staff because we have elite coordinators.
Joe Brady's nasty. Joe Brady's nasty. Babich also been great so far.
Exactly. I'm saying coaching staffs. The Chiefs coaching staff, the Lions coaching staff, and our coaching staff. And actually, I don't know about that. They probably have some guys because they hired the Rams assistant GM. That's their GM.
Yeah, you're right.
They do have a Rams guy. So really, like just the Bills and the Chiefs, and part of that might just be because they have the 2 best quarterbacks in football. Yeah, like that's how they're able to do it. Is because they have the 2 best quarterbacks in football. Like every other team that's like looking really good so far this year has McVay Shanahan guys.
Right. Yeah, I think this is a bad game for the Jaguars. Obviously, they'll look to bounce back on Monday night against us. I don't know if they will, but we'll see in due time. We're going to move into the next one here, Titans-Jets finally. I think this is one of those games that is it was closer than people wanted it to be, especially our friend Spike, good friend Spike. He didn't want it to be this close. Sure, nobody did if you're a Jets fan. Realistically, Will Levis's terrible decision to throw the ball back there, they get a field goal out of that. Obviously, the field goal doesn't save them in that aspect at the end, but second straight week losing 24-17, second straight week where Will Levis turned into a dumbass in the middle of the game in the red zone. And we're looking at 3 in a row, so let's see if Will Levis can put together a master class for week 3. But
and they're playing, aren't they playing like? Oh, they're playing the Packers.
Yes, they're playing Malik Willis in the Packers.
No,
So,
Jordan Love might actually play.
Yeah, Jordan Love. Oh, if Jordan Love plays, then
he returned to practice today. They said he's questionable.
I hope Jordan Love doesn't
crazy.
play because I already did my prediction video with my friend and I picked the Titans to win. Spoiler, 17-16. I did it for the memes too. I made them have 17 points again.
But it's really 17-9, but Will Levis throws a pick 6.
Yeah. Dude, like I'm gonna lose us another game.
Those memes are insane. The memes that people are making, yeah.
The one of him in the aquarium swimming is just that's the best thing I've ever seen in my life.
But as our good friend Spike has already said multiple times, because I let him rant about the Jets on the radio that I also go on, our school's radio 91.3 FM, WBNY. Go give that a listen.
Yes, sir. Not sponsored.
I let Spike go talk about the Jets on that one. And every single time, it's like a 10-minute rant, and a majority of it's just how bad Nathaniel Hackett sucks and how he said that he could create better plays on Retro Bowl. And he started creating plays on air. And they were like, it was said this after week 1. He said like plays where both Breece Hall and Braylon Allen were on the field and duo running back. And then it actually worked. So I don't know, maybe Nathaniel Hackett was listening to him and was like, oh, maybe that might work. Because Nathaniel Hackett and his dog shit halfback dive play that he's in love with, he might as well just marry that.
Maybe that's why Hackett's so bad, because he's been listening to other ignorant Jets fans.
I don't know. I think that, no, trust me, as a Bills fan, no, he's just that bad. I remember the same offense that he's running for the Jets. He ran that 10 years ago with Tyrod Taylor and LaShawn McCoy. Run it up the gut, run it off tackle, throw it short of the sticks, punt the ball.
Somehow we made the playoffs.
We made it with Greg Roman.
Yeah, you're right, with Greg Roman.
Oh, Nathaniel Hackett wasn't with Tyrod and Shady. My bad. He was with
EJ
Kyle Orton and Kyle Orton. I mean, Grant. Okay, so I will give him slack there that the quarterbacks were bad.
And Orton.
Yeah, we didn't have a lot of offensive talent, but still.
But you have Rodgers now, bro. Like, come on, there's no excuse. And with the way they played in this game, they really didn't deserve to win. It was just the Titans kind of
their defense, and also the Jets defense played a lot better.
It's the Titans, though. It's
other than that insane Calvin Ridley catch. I mean, allowing 10 points.
That was
pretty good.
I'm not gonna lie to you. The safety took the worst possible angle in that situation.
Because as Spike has also continued to say, Chuck Clark is dog shit and the worst safety in the league.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he took the worst angle possible in that situation. I don't even know how that ball fit through the corner, but he does throw a perfect pass down the sideline there in a sense. But realistically, the safety should have intercepted that. At the end of the day, that's a pick. But very ugly game for the Titans again. They're going to have to clean up some errors. Another blocked punt. I don't know how the coordinator's not fucking fired at this point. But I saw it happen. It happened with somebody a couple of years ago where it was back-to-back weeks where they had a blocked punt on their team and then the guy got fired. So, like, how did it not happen this time around is crazy to me. But basically, there's 2 guys on these teams that shouldn't have a job right now. But I do think that this is just one of those games that kind of got lost in the mix of a very chaotic week. But this was one where we could have almost saw another upset happen. And it just goes to show how close the beginning of the season really is. So, moving into another one that was designated as an upset, a lot of people saw the Bucs potentially winning this one. Obviously, that hints at who this matchup is. We're going to talk about the Ravens and the Lions and the Bucs, obviously. So, Detroit is who I had winning. I had them win 31-27. Obviously, the final score being 20-16. This was one of those games where everyone was going in 38-35 final score, 38-31. Everyone was thinking absolute shootout. This is one of those games we've seen so many years in the past where you're expecting it to be a shootout and it ends up becoming just a defensive duel for most of the game. And that's what this was. Jared Goff had a golf day. It's just
Stop.
not his.
No, stop. Do never say that again.
He had the worst game you really can imagine. And the fact is, for the Lions, I'm still going to tip my cap to your defense. Aiden Hutchinson with 5 sacks in this game. And with him throwing the 3 interceptions to only lose by 4 and actually really be really close at the end there, almost to winning this game still, just goes to show how great of a team you have. So Tampa Bay had a very solid week. Chris Godwin was very good as well. He had over 100 yards and a touchdown. So good week for the Bucs. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, the Bucks really surprised me. I thought that they were going to keep it close. I have no idea how Vegas had it Lions minus 7.5. I'm like, this is the freest line ever. The Bucks are keeping this game close, if not winning. Hats off to Aiden Hutchinson. 5 sacks is pretty insane. One guy I want to mention on the Bucks, Zion McCollum, backup corner. They're without Antoine Winfield Jr. They just traded away Carlton Davis.
Played safety in this game.
They just traded Carlton Davis. They lost Sean Murphy-Bunting. They're without Antoine Winfield. And then this no-name who was not good last year steps up, and Antoine Winfield's replacement has a very good game. He has the 1 interception on Goff. And just played great. Great coverage. I mean, the Bucs defense really stepped up in this game to shut down a potent Lions offense.
Another guy I want to shout out
at home.
Nizian.
Yep. Yeah. That Bucs secondary really showed up. I mean, Amon-Ra had a good game, but that was more so slot linebacker stuff. Amon-Ra's going to eat. You can only do so much. But yeah, Jared Goff did have a great game.
On him, there's no chance.
Goff continued to show to me why he is not a top 10 quarterback in this league. He can put up good numbers when things are easy for him, but he doesn't make plays. And you saw when he had to try and make some plays, it just didn't come to fruition. Either threw a bad pick or just missed a pass, or
he threw a terrible one right over the middle of the field. There was nobody within like 10 yards. Yeah. Like the guy was all the way to the right side and threw it right down the middle of the field.
Yeah, and then Baker really showed out. What a game by Baker. I mean, his first 7 pass completions all to Chris Godwin, 110 and a touchdown is pretty funny. And then as soon as I say that, he throws to Mike Evans. It was kind of funny. Like, I was texting a group chat. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. And then legit 5 seconds after the next play, he threw a stop route to Mike Evans. I'm like, that's funny how I jinxed it like that. But either way, I mean, 20 points against a decent Rams defense, especially with the way Aiden Hutchinson was dominating. He had the 11-yard touchdown run. That was extremely impressive. That was to take the lead. And then he did enough to hold on and go in and beat a team that was inches away from making the Super Bowl. So, yeah. And in Detroit too, like, very impressive win by the Buccaneers.
Yeah, very good week for Tampa Bay. Obviously they're playing the Broncos next week, which, funny enough, since you added them because they're playing the Broncos, their defense, the Buccaneers. I did the exact same thing in my fantasy league, so now I'm
also facing a Bucs fan. That's why I'm doing it.
Oh, damn, that's so mean. But I'm up to a 59% chance.
He has 3 Bucs players on his team, so
hoping to be the only one unbeaten again at the end of the week. I still am right now in my 8-man league. I am the only person unbeaten, which is awesome.
My on the only league I'm still unbeaten in. I'm facing the other, like, me and one other team are like the 2 highest scoring teams in the league within like 5 points of each other, and I'm facing him. We both have injury problems, so it's all right. Or actually, I don't think he does because he traded away Cup. But either way, my team and his team are like very equally, like, points wise. So it's going to be a super tight matchup. I had to start Shakir, so that's going to be a little rough. But
yeah, should be a solid game. I do think that the Jags secondary is pretty bad. But we're going to move into the next game here, the upset of the week, if you will. I can't believe this. I made this my lock of the week just to be an asshole.
And I called you an idiot.
And 26-23, the Raiders come out with a victory here, getting to Lamar Jackson several times in this game. Terrible second half by the Ravens defense and offense both. Brock Bowers absolutely ate. Devontae Adams went off in the fourth quarter. Daniel Carlson, that's a very big insult. Daniel Carlson, if I can speak. Daniel Carlson with a massive field goal at the end. They were really thinking about trying Tucker from 70 yards in this game, too. The Ravens were, after he missed a 55-yarder that would have sent this game to overtime. But one thing I saw this week, and one thing I saw this week is that they are in the NFL this season so far. Kickers above 50 yards are 33 of 35, and both misses are by Justin Tucker. That's an absolutely
He's 2 for
amazing.
7 for his last 7 kicks over 50 yards. He's washed.
Yeah. It's over.
Brandon Aubrey has
Hook'em
replaced him as
Horns
the best
is
kicker in the league.
Hook'em Horns is gone, but very tough game for them. The pressure really got to the offense
Horns
a lot
down.
in this game. Derrick Henry really didn't show up for the majority of this game, which is just tough.
He's also washed.
I believe so as well, but I do think that this was one of those games that's going to be a wake-up call for Baltimore. If you have anybody on Baltimore's offense next week, start them. I'm so serious. They're playing Dallas, who's not been able to put it together defensively yet, and I'm so serious. The Ravens are going to go nuts in this next game. I feel they're just going to come out angry. I mean, this is a game they had, and just cue the long ass lists like this many, like probably 8 to 10 matchups where you just see Baltimore leading by 10 plus points in the fourth quarter with like 6 or less minutes in the game, and they just find a way to lose. And you can't in this day and age in the NFL, especially in such a competitive AFC, to fall to 0-2 is very tough luck for them, especially with one of those losses being to the Chiefs. Now you're 3 games back at Kansas City, which is just not a recipe for success. Very tough game for them. So what are your thoughts, I guess, in this situation? Other than I told you so.
I told you so. You said it was your lock of the week, and I'm like, no, it is not. I'm like, that's just I did pick the Ravens to win, but I'm like, this is going to be a very close game. And the main reason I said is the Raiders pass rush against the Ravens offensive line. And the big turning point in the game was Max Crosby dominating the offensive line. I mean, he won AFC Player of the Week, 2 sacks, 4 TFLs. He was absolutely dominant, exactly like I thought.
Sad it was not Jamarcus Ingram.
But I think Max deserved it over Ingram, if I'm being honest.
Well, Ingram got a lucky pick six, to be fair. That should have been
exactly. And also James Cook got AFC Offensive Player of the Week. Shout out to him. And they never
give it to two players
on the
the
same
one that
team.
Was tipped, wasn't it?
By Benford, yes. Benford had a better game.
Yeah, because Benford had the one on the sideline that was just overthrown of Chosen Anderson. So, yeah.
But, I mean, obviously Ingram still played well, but that's beside the point.
Right.
But Max Crosby, absolutely dominant. I mean, Christian Wilkins, very good. Tyree Wilson is still there. He was the top 10 pick last year, developmental guy. So they're hoping they can see more out of him. He's looked a little bit better this year. But overall, they did enough to slow down the Ravens offense, holding them to 23 points, which isn't bad. And then Gardner Minshew Mania, baby, was just dotting up that Ravens defense in the second half. I mean, Brock Bowers, Devontae Adams. Bowers has already established himself probably as a top 5 tight end in the league. I mean, I don't know if that's crazy to say this early through 2 games, but I think he's like second receiving yards or maybe first. Like he's been probably the best
early
tight
season tight ends. I mean, Travis Kelce once week 10 hits is going to be nuts.
Not last year. He was bad this year. He started off the year good and then it was bad. This year he started off
I
the
think
year
it's
bad.
going to be the opposite this year.
I don't. I think he's just washed. Personally, I think Travis Kelce's washed. But anyways, I think Brock Bowers is playing like the best tight end in football, but because it's his rookie year, I'll just say he's a top 5 tight end right now. Devontae Adams is still a top 10 receiver in this league. Gardner Minshew does enough to keep this offense rolling. Their O-line looks serviceable. That was a big question mark going into the year. Obviously, Colton Miller, but then you have like JPJ. Yeah, they added JPJ to solidify that left side of the line. Exactly. So, and the running backs aren't great, but they have enough there with Zamir White and Alexander Madison. I mean, the Raiders are
he's the Tyler Linderbaum of this draft.
Okay, that's fair.
JPJ is.
Yeah, he's a sneaky guy. Or like, this Ravens team they're gonna be good to a lot of different teams. They're gonna play a lot of teams hard. They're good coached by Antonio Pierce. So if I'm a Raiders fan, I'm a little bit, especially Raiders, Ravens. They're close enough. I know I missed.
Yeah, anyways, Lamar Jackson, Gardner Minshew, same guy.
If I'm a Raiders fan, I'm feeling pretty good after this win. I mean, it makes me think, I can stick with all these good teams.
How do you beat the Ravens, but you don't beat the Chargers?
Bad matchups.
Bad coaching.
It's matchups. I mean, think about it. What's the Raiders' strength? Their defense, their pass rush. What's the Chargers' strength? Their pass protection because of Alton Slater. What's the Ravens' weakness? Their pass protection because their O-line sucks. Like that was just the bad matchup. That's what I think the difference was. And yeah, I mean the Raiders, I think they're gonna be very competitive with a lot of teams this year. I still don't see them making the playoffs because I think I think Minshew was all right, but just not good enough. They just don't. I don't think they have enough on offense to really make a playoff push. I just don't think they're complete enough of a team. But I think they're going to be very competitive. So I'm excited to see what this Raiders team brings this year.
Yeah, me too. I do think Antonio Pierce is the right guy. I think they kind of proved that in this game that they found their right guy. He can kind of power them through to get these wins late. We're going to move into the next game, though. The Cardinals and the Rams, an absolute blowout. And one thing I want to mention here really quick is Jonah Jackson and safety John Johnson are both headed to IR. Cooper Kupp is likely to head there as well. So 3 more players to add to the IR after this week to add to Nacua, Steve Avila, and also blanking on his name, but one of their linebackers from last week. So one of their starting linebackers, their starting safety, 3 of their starting linemen, and 2 of their starting receivers are all out on injured reserve. So, I mean, I guess that kind of plays into why they lost by 31 points, but Cardinals, you got to give them props where props are due. They came out, they had a very good game plan. I honestly don't think the Rams recover from the start that the Cardinals had anyway. The Cardinals were just nuts to start this game, but Marvin Harrison won 132 touchdowns in this game, absolute masterclass from him as well. So congratulations to the Cardinals, really proving everybody wrong early in the season, kept it close with Buffalo, destroying the Rams. Although they're bruised and beaten, all these different things, I do think that they did a very solid job in the offseason. Zach Gardeck, who I've never heard of in my life until this week, had 3 sacks in this game, which just goes to show how terrible the offensive line is. So tough one here for the Rams to swallow, but I think they'll get right eventually. It's just about they're the team right now that's getting the injury bug, and it's tough to see.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if I'm the Rams, depending on how long some of these guys are injured for, it might be time to start just thinking about next year. I mean, if they're out with this many guys by week 8, they're probably going to be at 2-6, and at that point, with how tough their schedule is, I think these injuries are gonna dig them too deep of a hole to really be able to.
You saw them last year though. They made that run at the end of last year too.
Yeah, but they weren't 2-6 at one point. They were like 3-5, like 4-5, and also their schedule is much tougher this year. Having to play much tougher teams down the stretch, like the Bills, obviously the Niners, the Cardinals look better this year. I'm not sure who else they play, but I know they do play some pretty good teams. So that's why I'm saying, like, I think they might just dig themselves too deep of a hole where they're.
I know they play the Packers.
They could maybe end up they could go 2-6 and then maybe finish like 7-10, 8-9. But I think it's more so. It's like if these guys are off too long, it might just be start looking towards next year and then build yourself.
At that point, way they've been drafting 4-13. Try to go 5-12. Get a better draft pick.
Yeah, I mean, they have a lot of young pieces.
And you're going to look solid in the draft.
Yeah, I mean, I still think Stafford's got some left in the tank where he will be good next year. I think, you end up with a good
you don't got to take a quarterback. And there's many good defensive linemen. James Pierce is in this draft. Mason Graham's in this draft.
There's a lot of good build out the offensive line if they wanted to.
Yes, all lines in this draft, too.
Or corner. There's a lot. They could go and get – well, I don't think they go D-line because they got Verse, Chris Jenkins, Kobe Turner.
You have the guy on LSU there, Harold Perkins, who's a jack of all trades.
I think the D-line is their strength. I think, if anything, they're going to fix their if like a top pick. I think they go and get someone like Will Johnson to really shirk that defense. And then later in the draft, because what happened was 2 years ago when they absolutely gutted that roster, they were able to replace a lot of their starters with good players. But now they just didn't have any depth. Now their depth is absolutely shot. So now these injuries are happening and they're screwed. So a draft like this, they can go and get a guy like Will Johnson, and then they can spend their day 2 and 3 picks just getting a bunch of depth pieces to fill in. So then when they hit these injuries like the Bills, they've hit a bunch of injuries on defense. Their defense hasn't missed a step because they took this last year to really focus on getting a lot of depth pieces, and it's working.
It's not even this last year though. You're talking about 2020. Yeah, you're talking about the 2022 where we got most of these guys.
We're starting to really fill in these depth guys, and I feel like
that's why the draft picks are coming back to bite the Rams, because you trade away so many of these picks. You trade away the 5th, 6th, 7th, so you don't think about those picks. They're finally starting to get some of them back by trading Ernest Jones to the Titans, but it's just.
These last 2 drafts, I think these last 2 drafts they've done really good, but they were just so gutted that they've
had so much 3 or 4 years where they were just so far set back that it wasn't even – they weren't drafting for depth at that point. Yeah. They were drafting to find someone to start.
Yeah, their drafting has been really good, though. So, I do trust if this is a throwaway year because of all these injuries. I really think that they can hit it out of the park with another draft class. Because, I mean, it already looks like this draft class is looking to be really good with Jared Verse looking like a stud. I think if they hit it out of the park with this class, I mean, that next year they could be looking like really, really deep. And then a couple of injuries, and they're still not bothered. They could still be a really good team because they are outside of Stafford and Kupp. This is an extremely, extremely young team. So I'm still excited for the future, but it looks like this year might end up being a throwaway year. And then for the Cardinals, they look really good. Kyler looks back. Marv is a stud. McBride's a stud. Their offensive coordinator has been playing really good job with that run game with James Conner, but behind a bad offensive line. It just makes Buffalo look better because they were able to beat the Cardinals, and the Cardinals the next week go and win by 31. And then one more thing I want to mention is, as much as I love Trey White, Bean made the right decision, as many people hated him for it by cutting him because unfortunately,
he's a great personality.
Bills fans knew it.
Bills
fans knew it. I'm talking about the national media who is idiots and don't know it. They are like, exactly. Oh, why are you cutting your best corner? Your secondary screwed now, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, we're cutting someone coming off 29 coming off a torn ACL and torn Achilles. Yeah, he's going to be really good still with so much athleticism he has left. And that's the problem is I think he still has the technique and the skills, but he is just burnt toast. He just
you can have all the mental you want, but when your body's that bruised and battered, there's no chance.
Yeah, you have to be a top,
especially when you're tasked with covering one of the best generational receivers we've seen in recent years in the draft.
Quarterback's the one position where you have to be an insane athlete. Like a wide receiver, you can get away with being an okay athlete if you can
I'm not even going to lie to you.
If you're a big body, if you're a corner,
the NFL is cornerback, and then the second is quarterback.
Yeah, if you are not an elite athlete, it doesn't matter how good your mentals are. You will never be a good corner.
You could literally be this close to a receiver, and they could find a way to make the catch still. That's the problem as being a corner in the NFL. You can literally be right on their hip the whole play and make the perfect move. And
like Deontay Banks against Justin Jefferson on that touchdown pass. Week 1, he played that absolutely perfectly. He hit the ball out. He put his hand in between Jefferson's arms, hit the ball out, and then Jefferson was able to just let it go, readjust, and catch it before he hit the ground. It's like, what is Deontay Banks played that textbook perfect, and he still allows the touchdown because Jefferson is just Jefferson. Like
exactly, that's how it goes.
I totally agree.
Yeah, and see, that's what ends up happening in this league, and it's very tough, especially when you don't have the depth, when you don't have these other guys coming in. It's almost like college programs. That's how they fall off. Is like they kind of find like they make one or two wrong decisions with these talent guys, and you have to have the depth. And it's always like the biggest concern is having depth. And right now, that's why the Bills are in the spot they're in is because of their depth compared to other teams. And that's why the Rams are sitting at 0-2 now. And it's a challenge in this league. But we're going to move into this next one here. We got the Chiefs and we have the Bengals. This one was the game of the week, in my opinion. One of the best games. But unfortunately, the end didn't end how I wanted to. Of course, the Burrow fumble that led to a touchdown, which was suspiciously not even like reviewed like for very long at all.
No, well, because he fumbled the ball, it was pretty clear. The ball
well, the thing is, sure, it's fine. The only things here that I really was very upset about, Jamar Chase does not need to talk to the ref the entire time there. Like, you just go back to the huddle. You're not going to get the call. I'm sorry. That was the correct play. There was no pass interference, really. There was a hold earlier in the play.
No, that's not what he was bitching about. He wasn't bitching about PI. He was bitching about hip drop. Because one thing real quick, I don't understand. How can the NFL make the hip drop rule, which I thought was a bad rule, but they still made it, and then they just don't call it? What's the point of making the rule? It's already happened. Like it hasn't been called in 2 weeks.
Happened to Mixon too on Sunday night.
Happened Mixon high ankle sprain. Jordan Addison high ankle sprain happened against Josh Allen. You could say it happened against Chase. I think it happened another time. It's happened like 5 or 6 instances where it's like, based on your definition, this is supposed to be a hip drop tackle, and then the rest don't call it. It's like. Why are you going to make the rule? Why bother make this rule? It's a judgment rule. And then now, because they haven't been calling it, eventually some game is going to be decided because some team is going to make a hip trap on a 2-minute drill and they're going to lose because of it. And the NFL is just going to be outraged. It's going to be like, how do you not call all of these ones, but then you shaft my team by calling this one? And it's just going to be a whole lot of issues that the NFL wouldn't have to deal with if they have just been calling it from the beginning. If they just call it like they said the rule was, or just don't make the rule, just completely scrap the rule. I get
Yeah.
they made it obviously to make the game safer, and then they don't call it. Like,
Yeah.
NFL,
Right.
please make sense. Like, come on.
Yeah, one thing in this game that really upset me was the Evan McPherson missed field goal that really cost him this game, obviously, because they lose by 1 point at the end. Cam Taylor-Britt's interception, which a lot of people were complaining on Twitter about 4 or 5 different things for the Chiefs here, like the Jamar Chase was right. That should have been pass interference. No, it shouldn't have. I'm sorry. You guys are clearly uneducated, so that's the problem. The Burrow fumble, which was obviously out as well. The McPherson field goal, which is the only one that's actually accurate because McPherson doesn't miss a single field goal against the Chiefs in his career, but misses the extra point, unfortunately. That one's not really – you can't blame the Chiefs for that, though. Like it's not like the Chiefs just did something like, oh, like they made him miss it. Like, no, that's not how that works. You're just dumb. But and then the last thing was the interception that was called back in this game because – literally on that drive, it was also an interception result at the end because Taylor-Britt ends up with the interception against Worthy, which absolute baller to tell everybody, to tell him straight to the media, straight to the national media. All he can do is run in a straight line. And then what does he do? Run in a straight line for an entire play there. And you just give me the ball.
One hand, boom.
Like
I do
it
understand.
doesn't get any funnier than that. He's Eli Apple if Eli Apple backed it up.
Yeah. Like before like the Cam Taylor-Britt interception, I completely agree why Bengals fans would have been mad because that was an awful call that they called on that pick, the one that was called back.
Before,
what
yes,
a terrible that was just complete bailout. But yeah, no, that was just a complete bailout. That should not have been that should have just been a pick. But the thing is, the reason I'm not upset about it is because the Bengals are like, all right, ball don't lie. Cam Taylor-Britt just goes and gets a pick anyway. So it's like, that's a situation where it's like, yeah, we got shafted by the refs. Let's just do it again. It's standing on business. And that's where a lot of teams were like, yeah, we get shafted. That's why when fans like, oh, we lost because of the refs, it's like, no, because you can just go and do it again. The Bengals showed they got shafted by a bad call. And then they just go and get another interception. That's what you're supposed to do. If you get screwed by the refs, you just like, obviously you don't want like getting screwed by the refs. It sucks. And it can be a reason why you lost, but you can't blame it because just because it happened doesn't mean you can't go and do this, that, or the other thing to make up for it. And the Bengals did on that drive.
Yeah, they did. The other thing here that really cost Cincinnati was on 3rd down, and I think it was 7 or 8. They had a throw there that was dropped by Josevich, the guy who went nuts in this game, Andrei Josevich. And unfortunately there, he just couldn't hold on to the ball. Probably would have sealed the game in that sense there, would have given him at least a couple more plays to force the Chiefs to use their timeouts and make the situation a lot harder anyway. But at the end of the day, he misses that catch, the missed field goal, and they end up falling by 1 point in this game. So it's tough for the Cincinnati Bengals, but obviously they start slow. So 0-2, they're not too worried, I'm sure. But how about this AFC, man? All out of whack. You got the Chargers sitting at 2-0, and then you got the Bengals.
Bills are the 1 seed.
0-2. The Bills are the 1 seed right now. Right there with the Chiefs as well. But we have the higher point differential. That's why we're at first. But one thing about this next game we're going to talk about here is I just dropped back and threw an interception to the other team and threw it to the other team. Bo Nix's final words as the starting quarterback, probably because Pittsburgh wins 13-6. Sorry. They won 13-6 in this game. Absolute snooze fest of a game. I feel bad for anybody who watched this game. The NFL should be there should be a lawsuit on the NFL to make you have to get your money back.
They have Giants, Panthers in Germany, so I doubt they care about that.
Yeah, no, they don't. But tough game to watch here for most of the fans. I was watching Red Zone, so unfortunately,
I kept cutting
for this game.
Well, no, that's your fault for choosing to watch this game. You could have watched 2 other games and you chose to watch. Yeah,
I chose to watch Red Zone because I prefer Scott Hansen over the announcers, especially when Tony Romo glazes the Chiefs the entire game.
I don't know if you've watching full games.
I don't know if you've seen this.
I just don't really pay attention to the announcers that much. I just have the games on and I watch them while I'm doing other things. Like I have friends over who play pool and shit like that. So
right. But the thing is, that was a big problem for me in this game is like with Tony Romo. Mahomes threw a pass like in the dirt, and Tony Romo said like it was a smart decision to do that. And it's like, I'm sorry, but
he's not as bad as Chris Collinsworth, though.
Yeah, you're telling me, man. Week 1, Chris Collinsworth was doing that, and they didn't even have the Chiefs.
Him and Lamar. And he was giving Lamar his fair share of the Glock 3000.
The Glock 3000.
Yeah.
The Robert Griffin III meme there. But
Yeah.
we're gonna move on to the next one. Sunday Night Football. We're just gonna basically skip the Steelers Broncos. That was just such a snooze
Bo Nick
fest.
sucks.
Yeah, literally. And this one I was so close to predicting accurately. I predicted 24-13 Houston. It was 19-13. Texans got a little bit less than what I thought they would. I was concerned for the Bears in this game, and all those things came true. One thing for Caleb Williams, he had that really good play where he broke the sack, rolled out to the right, and then throws it downfield, and it's intercepted by Kamari Lassiter. I'm sorry, but in that situation, just throw the ball away. You're lucky to even be standing on your feet at that point. You should have been sacked. Just throw the ball away. Live to play another down. Don't force it downfield and force your team into a bad situation, especially with how good the Bears defense was that night. Even if you do punt on that drive, they probably punt it right back. It's a very good game from the Bears defense. Kind of proved to the world what they can do. And so that's cool for them on defense. But the offensive side of the ball, realistically, nothing was really working for Caleb Williams. One thing I do want to mention here that's a little weird for me is Caleb Williams couldn't handle the pressure very well, which is weird to me because I thought gay guys liked 6 guys at once, but I guess not in this situation. So, very crazy situation for the NFL. But Caleb Williams, just bad game in this one, man. Just Alex is done. But it's a very bad situation here for Caleb Williams, man. I can't believe it. Tough game for them. They end up losing. Alex, what are your thoughts?
Well, my first thought is that is one of the most absurd things I've ever heard. As I fix my camera,
that was the funniest
I
thing.
get, yeah, no, that was funny. But
I'm sorry,
that's crazy. So I guess my first thing is Caleb Williams is more of a raw prospect than I thought. Everyone was saying he's pro ready. He is not pro ready yet.
No.
He needs some growing time. I still think he will be a top 5 quarterback in this league and an absolute beast. He has all the tools, as you saw on that play where he was able to break the sack like that. And then he made, like, that was a very beautiful ball, just a bad decision. And that's something he will learn. Like in college, that's probably a 80-yard touchdown because the guy's probably open because it's college. And that's something he needs to learn. Like, no, you can't do that. And I think he will. I mean, Josh Allen's done that so many times. Pat Mahomes has done it before. All your top quarterbacks when they were younger has made those dumb throws. And then they learn, okay, we can't do that. We run, we throw it away. We do things to mitigate that so we don't have such bad turnovers. And I think he will.
I think that's
but at
the
same
problem
time,
with how college football is, though, is you kind of like, if I don't know if you noticed this, but most of the good games in college football are high scoring as hell. Like you're talking 30 plus points. And that's just a testament to how bad the defenses are in college compared to the NFL. Like you're not playing these defenses that have one glaring weakness some way or another. There's always
because every team's elite defenders in college are all in the NFL. Every NFL defender was an elite college defender. It was every NFL defender was an elite college defender, and that's what it is. But also at the same, that's how you usually get drafted. As being the best of the best. I mean, yeah, there's obviously exceptions, but what I was going to say is that the biggest problem with Chicago's offense is not Caleb Williams. He made some nice throws. He's going out the drive like 5 for 5, 55 yards. He was getting the ball out quick. I think he still has a lot of very good traits. The problem is he was pressured on like 36 of 37 dropbacks, like 36 of 42. He was pressured on an absurd amount of dropbacks. And DeMeco Ryan smelled blood in the water. He's like, this line is bad. So what he did is he blitzed the living shit out of him, and they couldn't handle it. Like their offensive line is so awful. And I think part of it is on the coaching, as you see good coaching can mitigate a battle line.
It's the interior mostly.
I mean, you saw the center get bull rushed. Yeah, you saw the center got. No, Tevin Jenkins sucks now. You saw the center get bull rushed by Ernest Jones last week. Like their line is really bad. And that's what's killing him. And Keenan Allen's washed. Rome Odunze isn't healthy, and DJ Moore is pretty good, but like that's really all you have consistent right now because your number 2 isn't healthy and your number 3
and you have no ground game because your offensive line can't run block either.
And DeAndre Swift sucks. I don't care. DeAndre Swift is one of the most overrated running backs in the league.
Yes, exactly. He got
his vision is terrible.
He played for the Eagles
and the Lions.
Yeah, he played behind 2
of the best. He got traded for
what,
a 6th-round pick or something because he was so bad?
Yeah, because the thing is he played for one of the best offensive lines in the league and still only put up like 900 yards. Like how?
And then they go and sign Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, and you see they will go from
now
average
Montgomery
rushing attack to one of the best
against the Rams. and now Gibbs is just nuts too. And it's just
Exactly.
tough. But yeah, that's gonna basically wrap it up. Stroud looked great in this one. I think my favorite play of the entire game, favorite moment, I guess, for that Sunday night game was Nico Collins getting poked in the face by Tyreek Stevenson and then absolutely cooking him on the next play for a touchdown, which was absolutely hilarious. But I think the funniest part about that situation was Jalen Johnson in the end zone. I actually, when I rewatched this, I noticed this, but when Nico Collins caught the pass, broke the tackle, goes into the end zone, Johnson's on his hip as he crosses the line, and he just throws him to the ground. He was just pissed off at the world on that play, and you could see it in his face. That's just an athlete play to kind of see that, like, it's bull crap because the guy pokes you in the face. You're obviously going to respond to that. You're not going to just be a little baby about it and just cry to the ref like Tyreek Stevenson did in that situation. So realistically, that's about it, though. And then we're going to move into our last game of the week, another upset, the Eagles and the Falcons. Saquon Barkley had this game in his hands and couldn't hold on the third down. The Falcons almost gave the Eagles too much time, but I forgot that Jalen Hurts is the quarterback on the other side. So Hurts and the Eagles fall in this one, 1-1 record with realistically not the greatest start for these Eagles defense. This Eagles defense losing to Kirk Cousins on primetime. As Kirk, does he shed the label, or is it just on the Eagles in this one?
It's on the Eagles in this one. Their coaching is bad.
What? No.
This is another team that has really bad coaching. 2 years ago, they were almost won the Super Bowl. They had Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon. Those two coaches leave. They look like they're really good coaches. And it just shows Nick Sirianni is not a good head coach. He just got lucky that he had two elite coordinators. Yeah, Nick Sirianni is a bad coach. Jalen Hurts is just not a good quarterback. As much as it pains me to say that, because I like Jalen Hurts. I remember I was super high on him. I called that breakout in 2022. It happened. I was a genius for it. I drafted him in every single fantasy league I was in. I won I won multiple of them because of that, because of the value I got. But anyways, he was just so good, and he was second in MVP. Then Steichen leaves, and last year Ben Johnson was calling an awful offense. DeAndre Swift isn't a good running back. The run game was really bad. He looked really bad at the end of the year. We're like, all right, maybe he gets Kellen Moore. It was just a bad stretch of games. They go and get Saquon. And then it's like, okay, this year they should have a good run game, better play calling. Hopefully he can look better off of it. And I mean, he's looked a little bit better, but not really. I mean, he's still making some really bad decisions. He's still throwing some really bad interceptions. He should have now. He should probably have like 6 or 7 interceptions in 2 games.
Oh yeah,
like there
exactly.
was like he has 3. He has like 3 dropped picks also. Like he is just really rough. He's just making some really bad decisions.
Like that play reminded me of Jordan Love against the 49ers in the playoff game. Where he was just trying to force it, but it's week 2. But it's just week 2. Like you can't be making that throw.
The Eagles defense, when it comes to like high pressure situations, like 2-minute warning late in games, it is terrible. It's like they're statistically like one of the worst in the league, one of the worst of all time in these last like 2 years. And a lot of that is on coaching. They're just so conservative. Big Play Slay is not good anymore. Quinyon Mitchell looks like a stud, and we're thinking, oh, maybe Slay can move into that cornerback 2 role. He has looked really bad so far this year. He looked really bad at the end of last year. Like I don't know, their safeties don't look good. Chance Gardner-Johnson doesn't look that good. Quinyon Mitchell is like the only shining star in that secondary right now. Everyone else looks pretty bad. They're getting taken apart, especially on those 2-minute drills.
He hasn't really gotten that chance yet either.
He hasn't really gotten much playing time, which doesn't make any sense at all. You trade up to draft him in the early second round.
Well, the thing is, with how bad that secondary is, why haven't you at least given him a look?
Exactly.
And it's tough to see. Drake London catches that pass at the end that wins the Falcons this game. They left a lot of time on the clock. The Eagles should have had a chance to win this one, but again, Hurts just making a bad decision there to throw the ball downfield. If it's not 100% open on that play, I'm not throwing it because it's only second down. Throw it away, play for third down. You still had 20 seconds, and you were almost at the 50 by that point. Like you had time. You could have gotten into the field goal range, and we know how good of a kicker Jake Elliott is, especially as a Bills fan. Last year, hitting a 61-yarder in the rain and wind when the wind was going against him. So to kind of see how that goes in that situation, you had a lot better of a situation, obviously, playing in a dome. So were they at home for this one? I can't remember.
Yeah, they were at home. It was in Philly.
Okay, so whatever. But still, better conditions than it was in that other game. And Jake Elliott's an absolute dog. I have him as my kicker in fantasy, so I know he's a good kicker, and he has the leg. You just live to play another down in that situation. That felt almost like a second-year Josh Allen throw, and it was ugly to watch. Bad play for them, and it cost them the game. And that's going to wrap up our week 2 recap here. We're going to do one last thing before we move on to next week, obviously. Last thing we're going to do tonight, Alex, Jets and the Patriots on Thursday Night Football. Al Michaels, Kirk Herbstreit on the call on Amazon Prime. Jets, Patriots, AFC East showdown. Who gets it done on Thursday night? Alex, what's your score prediction?
I'm just a second. I'll give you my predictions a second. I just had to pull up my bets so I can tell you. So my predictions is that the Patriots cover 6.5.
Right.
Ramondre Stevenson has 60 yards and a touchdown at least, and Breece Hall has 50 yards and a touchdown. That's my prediction because I want to win $95. But no,
fair enough, man.
Either way, I do think the Patriots keep this game close. Division rival, the Jets haven't looked great. The Patriots have looked better. Their run game's really good. Their defense is good. I think the Patriots are a better coach team. But at the end of the day, the Jets are way more talented. They have the way better quarterback. So give me the Jets 20-7. Actually, no. We'll go 17-13.
17-13. Well, kind of similar. I have the Patriots scoring 13 as well. 21-13 is my score prediction. I think the Jets defense is going to keep this one in check. I think they're going to stop the run after a while. Stevenson's not
after Ramondre gets 60 yards. Ramondre is going to get 60 yards and a touchdown.
I think Ramondre's still going to have a solid game.
I'm winning money. Speaking of my baseball bet, if the Yankees win tonight, I win $30.
Nice. But he's the whole offense at this point. Let's be real. There's not really much outside of him. I mean, Hunter Henry kind of turned it up last week. We'll see if he can build off that in week number 3. But realistically, I think the Jets defense is going to have a solid week. CJ Mosley is questionable. He looks pretty good to go from what I've been hearing. He's probably going to play. A couple other guys that are going to play, obviously, Breece Hall, Allen, there we go.
Jermaine Allen. Johnson is not going to play because he tore his Achilles.
Yeah, Jermaine Johnson is not going to play. Very tough week for the Jets D-line in a sense, so it could be good for New England. I think this one will stay close for the most part. I don't think the Jets offense fully has it figured out because of Nathaniel Hackett, but 21 is where I'm at for them. 13 is where I'm at for New England. Give me that 21-13 score prediction for week 3's opener. We'll be back for week 3 NFL predictions for the entire rest of the slate for the Sunday games, and of course the 2 Monday night games, the Bills Jags, and then the Bengals Commanders games, and then Sunday night with the Chiefs and Falcons.
To break down the Patriots Jets game.
And to break down the Patriots Jets game, of course, as well. We'll have that probably on Friday for you guys. So thank you all so much for watching another episode of the Sports Lab podcast, and we'll see you guys next time.